Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 Million by 1 Million Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. 1M by 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million in annual revenue and beyond, build $1 trillion in global GDP and 10 million jobs. And in support of that mission, we do these free mentoring roundtables week after week after week. This is the 473rd session. We started with an experiment way back in the fall of 2008, and then, the full program, the 1 Million by 1 Million Accelerator, was launched at the end of 2010. So now we've already been doing this for 10 years almost. So we have a lot of experience in this field. This event is being recorded. Every single recording of these roundtables are available on our YouTube channel, 1M1M Roundtables. Very good learning material. If you have time, whether it's commute time or driving time, you can listen to them and you'll learn a lot. On Twitter, we're at 1M by 1M and at Romana. We publish a lot of rich content. And if you're live tweeting today, please use hashtag 1M1M. These are the call-in instructions. We're not quite ready for call-in. We have scheduled programming first. But this is a roundtable and not a broadcast. So we want you to participate as much as you would like to. And these are the call-in numbers to do so. You can also use the public chat, set it to send to all participants, and you'll be able to dialogue with the entire group. All right. We are going to start today's session with a conversation with Ashish Jain from 3Lines Ventures. Ashish, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shamana. Pleased to be here.
Well, let's first and foremost get you introduced to our audience. Tell us a little bit about yourself and 3Lines.
Oh, certainly. So 3Lines is an early stage software technology venture fund. It's a startup in itself. We started about 3 years ago. I joined the fund about 9 months ago. I was at GE Ventures before that, running the AI accelerator at GE, incubating industrial 4.0 companies. And we'll talk more about 3Lines. As I said, as a software technology fund, we are cross-border, investing both in US as well as India. And we are seed through Series A kind of investments. So we are a startup. All the partners actually have considerable operating as well as entrepreneurships as well as incubation experience. So the partners are not newbies, but the fund is relatively new. With the sorry, go ahead.
How big is the fund?
So we have around 10 million under management right now. And we are actively raising our second fund, expect close of about $50 million fairly soon. And we have the initial tranche already identified.
Okay. And talk about geography. You said you do cross-border India and US. Does it mean all of India and all of US? And are you, where exactly are you, are your physical presences?
Yes, no, that's very important part of our investment hypothesis. We are looking beyond Silicon Valley for sure, especially for early stage. We believe that there are tremendous opportunities, exceptional founders outside emerging now, partly because of incubators and accelerators, how they're growing. So we are about 10 innovation clusters or innovation hubs, you may want to call them, between US and India. So we do get deals from everywhere, obviously, but majority of our investments are in US. We are doing a lot in Boston, New York, Dallas, Denver, some from Silicon Valley for sure. In India, it's Bangalore, Northern India, as well as Hyderabad. So we are focusing on about 10 innovation hubs, and we actually have a very strong individual LP presence in these hubs. So we try to stay ahead of the deal flow and improve our deal flow by actively engaged with the early stage innovation and acceleration and incubation.
And where are the general partners located?
So we are a distributed team. I'm based out of New York City, and my other two partners, Kamlesh Dwivedi and Krishna Kunapali, they are based out of Denver, Colorado.
Okay, very good. That gives us an idea. So the next thing I want to do is define seed. So I'm sure you are observing how the ecosystem has evolved. You know, in the mid-90s, when venture capital started to become hot with the advent of the internet, there was seed and there was Series A. Now the picture is very different. 25 years later, there is, pre-seed, seed, post-seed, pre-Series A, small Series A, large Series A. So where in that continuum do you position yourself?
No, you're absolutely right. There has been a tremendous amount of innovation, both in terms of venture investment instruments, as well as the definition and the amount of capital which is available, resulting in rounds getting bigger and things like this. So yeah, for us, seed means a company with a team, a product, traction with initial customers, and about $500,000 in revenue. And in valuation term, it could be a broad valuation, but around 8 million kind of valuation is what we would consider as a seed. Again, these are prototypical examples. There are tremendous amount of variations in this.
And what size checks are you writing in that scenario?
For seed, we typically are going to make about $750,000 as part of our seed investment. Again, typical. It could really go as low as 100,000, and it could be slightly more in many cases, based on valuation and how much we like the firm and what kind of value we can provide to the firm. That's really what guides, not as much valuation as much as what kind of value we can provide besides the capital. So once we determine that, we take a much bigger round for some of them.
Let's pursue that a bit. What kinds of ventures, what sectors, what styles of ventures do you think you add the most value to, and hence what you're looking to invest in?
Certainly. So yes, so we are a technology fund. We absolutely are lovers of technology. We are techno geeks. So we invest in three broad disruptive areas. One is exceptional founders and companies in all related to future of work. As we know, this is how the workforce is changing, all the way from HR practices to coaching to the entire hiring with the gig economy coming. So we are investing a lot in the future of work. Second one is around Industry 4.0. That's a white space in our view right now. Lots of focus have been gone towards enterprise, but Industry 4.0 is really coming about, and partly that's really what I was doing at GE, so we have a lot of expertise around that.
And that is what you call Industry 4.0 is the industrial space in general, the
Yes.
IoT industrial kind of.
Yes, IoT is certainly, industrial IoT is certainly part of it. Supply chain, logistics, digitization, digitalization, automation, all aspects of. So that's what Industry 4.0 means to us. And the third one clearly is AI-enabled enterprises, right? All the way from automating workflows to personalization to improving experience, user experience. So these are really the three broad areas. We are really pretty much vertical agnostic, though we will not go in verticals we don't understand. So for example, biotechnology, therapeutics is not what we do. But we have a broad understanding of the verticals between our initial LPs and the advisors and the GPs. So we are a technology-focused fund, as I said, around the three broad areas we covered.
Now, talk about a few of your investments. Maybe do a couple of case studies, and specifically, what I'm looking to do is have you talk about the investment, the company, what they do, and specifically about when you encountered them. What did they have, and what was it about these companies that attracted you and you pulled the trigger to invest in the companies?
Yeah, no, that actually is it will exemplify our investment hypothesis actually. So I'll go over our 3 recent investments. The first one we invested in is a company called SOAR, SOAR, and that's really a future of work, part of our future of work. So the company provides AI-enabled coaching and mentoring. And the work the company is doing is actually based on some very foundational and fundamental work which happened in organizational psychology and industrial psychology, based on finding individual strengths and then trying to complement a program around, individuals, core strengths. So the founder, Paul Allen, is a repeat entrepreneur. He was the founder of Ancestry.com and Family Link. So he had 2 exits. And now he's building a world-class team of advisors to essentially allow people to assess their strengths, and then using AI and content, which is now available in a digital format, to really provide them 24/7 kind of an environment to learn, mentor in a one-on-one setting as well as in an AI-assisted setting. So this is, again, we try to get ahead of the deal flow. So Paul connected through our LP network with us. He wanted to build a very special company with very special capital structure, and we were very flexible about that. That's one of the reasons why we could connect with Paul.
What is special about the capital structure?
We can talk about it. There is certainly a trend towards bigger and bigger funds going forward, and Paul was very concerned about making sure that early investors and early employees, continue to have, because we are taking faith in it. We are an early stage fund, as you know, and so how do we protect the interests of the early stage investors? So he has done some very clever, I wouldn't want to say clever, something very foundational, I would say. Plus, we believe him. So he has created class structures which we were very comfortable with. I'm not sure how many other VC firms would become comfortable with those, but we believe in the team. We believe in what they are doing, and we were very happy with the kind of class structures he has created. So we went ahead and invested in his company.
And in this case, did it come with the $500,000 revenue that you said you look for in such investments?
Yes. So operationally, they're pretty close. I don't look at from a deal flow side. Our deal screening council actually looks at some of those. So I don't know the exact number, but yes, they had a lot of traction, and they are actually continuing to work with some of the largest training and coaching platform services companies to really have a B2B2C kind of a relationship. So yes, this company we were quite comfortable with the stage they were in.
Interesting. And what is the trend that you're seeing in this case? Of course, you have a serial entrepreneur who has had 2 exits, so presumably he has money. So is this a founder bootstrapping with his own money to that extent and then raising money after reaching a certain amount of revenue traction?
Yes. So Paul is the class of founders who's really bootstrapped quite a bit. And again, he was looking for like-minded investors who really believed in cause. It's definitely impact as well as for profit. And as I said, we see tremendous value going forward as workforce gets more diverse, more geographically, distributed, and the human resource practices really adapt to really cater to such a workforce. We believe that this company is going to be foundational, and his philosophy, his experience, we just loved it. Okay,
very good. And the company is based where?
The company is, most of the key employees are actually based out of Utah, Colorado. I'm sorry, Utah, yes. Salt Lake City, Utah.
Interesting. Utah is producing a lot of very good companies, and Utah has an excellent culture of bootstrapping. So we have seen a lot of successes out of Utah.
So we are exactly seeing the same thing. As I said in the beginning, Silicon Valley is a great place, but we are seeing phenomenal founders coming from everywhere right now. This is the time
That's
for
a
early.
good thing because it's so expensive. Silicon Valley has become so expensive, so you can't really hire a lot of people in Silicon Valley anymore.
Right. So with the rise of the mega funds, and if you're a pure growth-oriented rocket ship building kind of a company where you really want to escape by sheer capital, I guess you would go there. But we are looking for founders who are passionate, companies which are going to have impact, and they really
Small funds cannot play that game of hiring with heavy-duty salaries and trying to compete with Google and Apple and Facebook for talent. That's just not a playable game for small funds. Do you want to do another example of another investment that gives us some insight into your thinking?
Yeah, so let's take one from India. So we talked about India as I would not even call it emerging anymore because it's come of age.
Has emerged.
We'll talk about, yeah, no, exactly. I'll talk about Arzu. We call it India is going through Innovation 3.0 right now. So Innovation 1.0 was all around business process outsourcing. Innovation 2.0 was IT services company, as you saw. And now we are really talking about Innovation 3.0, which is like these founders are looking beyond just replicating, like a fast follower of companies that are successful here, and are now looking into supply chain, looking into platforms for IoT, for EV kind of vehicles, automation of the supply chain. So Arzu is one of them. It's ARZ as in zebra with 3 years. It's again, they are ex-Flipkart employees. They saw an opportunity to digitalize the supply chain for the B2B retail, and they are executing it perfectly. So we really love that team. India, as many would know, has gone through some macro changes around tax structure, how taxation happens in India. Demonetization actually resulted in more, I would say, the digital economy has really picked up. Yeah. So again, they have a SaaS platform, started with 3 or 4 cities and expanding almost literally on a weekly basis. So this is another example for us, great founders, very passionate, great experience, and tremendous growth area for us.
You're comfortable doing ventures that are India-based ventures facing the India market?
Yes, so that's again we do as part of our portfolio construction. We are certainly going to look for companies, India for India kind of companies. But we are also going to really look for India for global kind of companies because we can add a lot more value to those portfolio companies besides just providing capital. So we have not yet, but we are certainly looking. We are very advanced stages of certain deals where those entrepreneurs are essentially, replacing a lot of legacy systems using IoT and mobile and voice first kind of platforms, and they would really scale globally very, very well. So yes, so both India for India as well as India for the world. We are investing in both of those types.
Okay. So I have a slightly different question, which is, which is a question that I ask people who are running small funds. The micro VC trend is very hot right now, and there's a lot of innovation happening in the small venture capital fund category. There is a class of VCs that are still purely chasing unicorns. They want to go from 0 to $100 million in 5 to 7 years, billion-dollar TAM, etc. But there is a class of funds that are looking at small capital-efficient ventures and potentially seek early exits. Can you comment on this trend and where you sit in that spectrum?
Yeah, I think it's so our current fund is, our investment thesis is not for early exits. So we want to be true to our investment hypotheses and want to be true to our LPs. We don't want to play loose and fast. So we are currently not investing in those companies. However, having said that,
I'm going to push back for Ashish. I'm going to push back. I don't think the people who are doing small capital efficient ventures and seeking early exits are not being true to their limited partners. That is an allusion that I have to push back on. It's an inappropriate allusion.
It all depends upon how you have your portfolio construction hypothesis and what have you told your LPs in terms of your timeline.
That's right. So they have told their LPs that that's what they're going to do. So they're not being untrue to their LPs.
That's precisely what I'm saying. I'm not saying they are being untruthful. I'm saying that we don't want to be untruthful to our LPs because that's not what we have promised.
Why would you be? You raise a fund on the basis of an investment thesis. I'm asking you for that investment thesis. So obviously I assume that your LPs buy into that investment thesis.
Correct, exactly. So I'm saying that as part of that investment thesis, small early exits are not part of our investment thesis.
Not part of your investment thesis. That was my question. You're a traditional fund that is looking for the traditional venture dynamic.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, we certainly see a family of funds. So one of the things I will just add is, having said that, we believe in early stage, early exits kind of fund. And as a part of our what the brand and the platform we are building, we certainly expect to have a fund which is exclusively focused on early exits. Actually, we're planning to actually have a fund which is going to actually focus on innovation plus, which is going to go all the way and seed innovation. So those are all we have planned to do, but I answered you in the context of the fund which we are running right now.
Current fund. Yeah. Right. Okay. All right, so I think we understand the fund, and one of the reasons why I do these things of inviting investors to come and talk to me as well as to our community, and then we obviously have this available in the community for people to refer to, is so that we can start working together. So this, is the beginning of hopefully a longer relationship, and we'll start looking at deals together and so forth.
I think you're doing a great service, and now that I know more about it, it being virtual and starting a dialogue, especially around the trends and what you just mentioned, it helps with the LP education as well, I would say, because a lot of LPs, family offices are, don't quite value what it goes into a portfolio construction hypothesis, for example. In my view,
you have to have an investment thesis. You cannot just go blindly spray and pray. You have to have an investment thesis. Otherwise, you will not be successful.
And in our view, the GPs on their keep. I mean, a lot of people have deal flows. There are two places where the GPs on their keeps. One is getting ahead of the deal flow and not following it. And number two is how sophisticated is your portfolio construction hypothesis. That's really where we are, and I'm glad actually that it helps our cause quite a bit. So I appreciate you doing this.
Very good. All right. So Ashish, let's talk to Christine Outram, who's going to be pitching today. So folks, those of you who are listening or either pitching today or pitching in one of the upcoming sessions, this is a safe working session. We have no agenda other than helping you accelerate your journey by removing roadblocks. So you can come and discuss whatever it is that you're struggling with, and we'll do our best to give you some, experience perspective that we have seen work, not work, across a large spectrum of companies. You can disagree. Whatever feedback you get from me today or from Ashish, you can disagree, no problem. It's your venture. You will eventually make the strategic decisions. But do listen, and I think you will get some insights. Christine, you are on.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ashish, and thank you, Shramana, for the interesting conversation as well. So my name is Christine Outram. I'm in Los Angeles. I'm Australian, if you can't hear my accent, but I've been here for about 13 years. And I'm thrilled to talk to you about what we're building here at Everydae. We're in the ed tech space, so education tech, specifically helping high schoolers. So with Everydae, you can use your classes in just 10 minutes a day. Next slide. The problem that we're dealing with is that most high school students today need help, but tutoring is prohibitively expensive. In fact, only about 15% of families can afford it. And what that's doing is it's creating, next slide, an ever-widening achievement gap between the haves and the have-nots. So just to give this slide a bit of color, in a private school setting where tutoring is common, then the average score on the SAT is about 1410 to 1430 out of 1600. Compare that with the national average where tutoring isn't common, and you have a national average of around 1050. So we're really kind of seeing this, this pull apart as those who can afford to have access to supplemental education are, kind of pulling ahead, and those who can't are not. So next slide. Everydae, we've created a digital tutor for high school students for $19 a month, so affordable for more families. And our digital tutor doesn't have any humans. Students can ace their classes. Next slide. And they can also prepare for college. So it's not just academics, it's also preparing them for life after high school, all through fun 10-minute micro lessons. These are micro lessons that match their busy lifestyle and also teenage attention spans. Next slide. And because we're interested in each individual student, we have built an adaptive system. So it's an individualized, personalized study journey that adapts as you study. So if Shramana, you were one of our students, you would be coming to our platform, giving us some information about what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve. We would then start to understand where you're at right now through a diagnostic. And then as you study, we keep on adapting your study journey. The ultimate goal is to serve you with questions and content that you have a 70% likelihood of getting correct. Because 70% is just hard enough to stretch you and keep you engaged, but not so hard that you want to quit. And so we can do that over time by building out our content and also kind of having a lot of data on our students' answered things. Next slide. And while tutoring costs $75 per hour and up in the US, with some tutors costing $1,200 a session, which is a little crazy, but it happens. Everydae is $19 a month, and we're available on all devices. So our team, we're veterans of the EdTech industry. We've worked with some of the largest names in test preparation and admissions consulting. Next slide. Probably the largest thing we've done is build and then we sold Veritas Prep. So Veritas Prep, we helped hundreds of thousands of students do well on their exams and then get into the colleges of their dreams, both at a high school level, but also particularly around the GMAT and business school. And then while we were there, next slide, we also built, this is at Veritas Prep, so we've built successful gamified learning products before. While I was at Veritas Prep, I was Chief Product Officer and built out this gamified adaptive learning platform for the GMAT. So some really good, really good growth numbers and also kind of improvement in scores as well. And so that's kind of the backbone of Everydae. Next slide. It also helped us develop some proprietary algorithms. So our algorithms can help us predict success and then adapt content student by student. When we sold Veritas Prep, we sold it in 2018, and we sold off all of the traditional part of the business. So Veritas Prep traditionally was in-person tutoring, in-person classes, and what's called live online tutorials. So you log in to a live instructor. We sold all that part of the business, but the business we kept was all the adaptive technology that we developed for the previous GMAT product. We carved that out of the sale, and that's now the new company that we've spun out for Everydae. So that's the backbone of that. Next slide. So you've probably heard of the human genome, with 23andMe mapping the human genome. And Everydae, our mission is, next slide, to map the learning genome. Next slide. So we can take performance data across a variety of different subjects at the high school level. And we're one of the only companies to really do this, actually the only company we know that is doing this. So it helps us know when to intervene, what to teach, so what content to serve you, and also future opportunities. So we see that there's great value in helping a student understand, okay, based on your current aptitude and what you're interested in, here are some of the opportunities that you might want to explore after high school as well, which helps us connect with other partners in the business.
Christine, can we stay on this slide for a moment? I have a few questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this kind of product obviously needs to be fairly specific, right? If you're doing SAT math, that's one set of content around which you do this product. If you're doing, calculus one, that's a certain process. It's basically subject specific. What is your product roadmap vis-a-vis subjects, and how do you plan to roll this out?
Great question. I have another slide about that a little later, but happy to talk about it now as well. So we've started with SAT
If we
math.
cover it, then we can just follow your sequence. That's fine.
Yeah, let's do that then. We'll get to it soon. We really see ourselves as creating a new category, and we call that category smart tutoring. We'd like to position ourselves against tutors and not just against all test prep companies. We see that as a $70 billion TAM. So the way that we get to that number is we look at, okay, on average, if you had a 12-month, if every student in America from pre-K to end of college was working with us just 12 months at an average cost of $39 a month, then that would be kind of a $70 billion TAM. We cut that down for our SAM. It's around kind of 30 to 33 billion for a SAM because we're looking at who's actually interested in tutoring and who can even afford that amount. And then we can get to the next slide, which I think is what we're actually going after. Oh, sorry, no, out of order. We'll cover a little bit about where we're at first. So actually, let's go to the previous slide. So just to tell you where we're at today, in the summer of 2019, we launched our pilot program with some students in LA. About 80% of students used the program every day. And that was through text messaging them that they had a new 10-minute challenge up. Next slide. In December last year, we launched our free beta. We've seen 29% week-over-week account creation growth. That's for our free students. We currently have about 375 students in the product studying for their SAT exam in March and April. And then next slide. And then last week, we launched subscriptions. So they're $19 a month right now for SAT math, but they'll go to $39 a month once we launch more courses and more content. And so we see that the kind of average is about $39 a month.
Are people paying?
Yes. Sorry, what was that?
How much of the free customer base, user base, has converted into paying?
So the free customer base is currently free for life. So they're not converting customers. They were kind of in our initial beta, so they got free access. We have a 2-week free trial, and so we expect to see people start to convert, in a couple of weeks. Yeah, that's right. We've been self-funded thus far, and kind of completely bootstrapped and self-funded by the sale of Veritas Prep. I should mention that Veritas Prep was privately owned, never took any venture capital money, and so it was owned by the two co-founders. So it's a pretty successful exit for them. And so now we're raising $1 million. We are raising through an equity crowdfunding platform named WeFunder, and we've had about $140,000 come in the last 2.5-3 weeks, and so that's where we are right now. The money that we're raising is going towards the classes that we're producing. So just to talk a little bit more about those classes, starting with SAT, and then moving on to ACT, DSAT for the standardized exams, then moving into the advanced placement classes. So in the US, we have AP Calculus, AP Chem, AP US History. These are all kind of standardized across the country, so they're things that we can actually create courses against because they have standard metrics. However, it's not just the advanced placement classes we want to cover. Really, we want to be the digital tutor in your pocket or with you for all 4 years of high school. So we're looking at how we can then create courses for freshmen coming in, the 9th graders. We call them freshman fundamentals. So reading comprehension, algebra, kind of the fundamentals they need to know in order to kind of really level up to the other classes and get themselves through high school.
What is the cost involved to get one subject like SAT math up and running?
Yeah, great question. So to tell you a little bit about that process, and then I can tell you the cost. So our head of academics, she's written curriculum and courses for some of the leaders in test prep, and she works with one other curriculum developer that we have as well, who's also extremely successful, has a long history in this industry. What they do is they take a course like the SAT, they break it up into micro skills, and for the SAT, it's over 100 micro skills. They weight those micro skills based on how often it appears on the exam, and also what goal that student has, like what score they're going for, because you don't need to know everything if you're not going for the top score. And then also if it's fundamental to other skills. Based on that, we can create an initial learning map, and from there we can adapt the content. To be truly adaptive, you need about 6,000 questions per course. It takes us around 6 months to create a course at the moment. And that basically is just kind of the time of our internal team. However, we're starting to expand to work with a network of other tutors and freelancers, so that once we have the base level content, we can actually then produce more questions and more content in a much more efficient manner. So that's part of what this raise is about, is to increase the ability to run that playbook and get that done.
So what is the cost per course?
Our estimate right now is around $60,000.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
Pretty reasonable number, actually. Okay.
Yeah.
And what is your customer acquisition strategy? Are you doing this as a B2C venture? Are you doing it as a B2school venture? What is the strategy?
Yeah, we know a lot about selling to schools and how difficult it is to sell to schools. It's a very fragmented, long sales cycle. And we really want to be close to the customer, which means going B2C. We definitely have a kind of payer and player situation, the payer being the parent and the player being the student. So it's about making sure that we have a product that is sticky enough, that is exciting enough, that makes you feel good about using it for the student, as well as showing the parents that we can get results and that we have something that really helps prepare their kids for the next, for the exam, but also kind of beyond high school as well. The way that we're reaching them, about 15% of our marketing budget is on digital ads. We're going to be launching those shortly. Then the other two key channels are partnerships. So on this screen, you'll see actually some of the partners that we've started to work with, and continuing to, I'm really keen on looking into the homeschool market, growing market and sector here, right price point, self-paced, so students don't need to you don't need to drive a student across town to go see your SAT tutor or go to an SAT cram course or anything else. So that's a market that I'm really interested in tapping into. So that's kind of what I call the partnership.
Do you target your digital advertising to, the parent or the child?
Parents right now, yeah. So direct to parents. We have this kind of thesis around giving people things. So getting leads through things like creating free digital roadmaps of high school. We know that parents are sometimes confused about how to get their kids from 9th to 12th grade. So, kind of providing them with some material around that, getting their leads, and then pulling them into our kind of parent.
What is your closest comparable of a business to parent app that has, in the edtech space, that has really scaled with that model of advertising and customer acquisition?
That's a great question. I think there's definitely been success in, I'm trying to think of the most successful one that I've seen. I mean, I spoke with a founder the other day, CodeSpark. They've been really successful at this. They are more for younger children. There's a lot of examples with younger children. There's a lot of examples with K through 8, where, kind of reaching the parents and getting them excited. There's also, I'd say, like there's a business called ID Tech, which does summer camps, summer STEM camps for kids. It's not a digital product, but they've been extremely successful at getting parents in.
I think rather than trying to answer this question now, I would request you to take this question away and investigate, because it's a, investors are looking for comparables all the time. That has this been done before? Has this happened somewhere else? At least some approximation of this. Has it happened somewhere else? And try to figure out what comparable you would provide as a success metric. And let me also ask Ashish to chime in, ask his questions and comments, add his comments.
No, yes. So, Christine, this is an area we are tracking very, very closely. I'm a little bit surprised to hear that in Australia you consider this a relative white space right now in the sense of competition.
No, I'm actually Australian, in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'm Australian, but I'm based in Los Angeles.
So you believe in the United States? Okay, all right. I'm sorry about that. So EdTech in India is tremendous right now. I don't know if you're tracking those for comparables.
I'm tracking China and a little bit of India. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So India already has a unicorn. Everybody knows about that one. But we are also working with at a very early stage with the company exactly using AI and creating an adaptive program for standardized as well as curriculum-related education in addressing high schools and pre-engineering, pre-medical kind of population. And it's a great area to be in, to be quite honest with you. I must point out that there really is a lot of content already out there in terms of education. And branding and go-to-market on a B2C is not as easy as one would like it to be. So just as a I don't know what your experience is over here, but this is in India. It's certainly it's becoming very crowded right now. But at the same time, the valuations are still out there. The money is out there. So I'm sure you should have really no problem raising what you're trying to.
Thank you.
So, Christine, I have to chime in on the competition point. It seems a little bit incongruous to me to think of this as a white space, because this kind of stuff has been test prep. There's been a ton of test prep related businesses and apps out there. So my input would be you should do a lot thorougher competition research and comparable research, because both of those matter. Competition would matter, comparable would matter, because you want to understand what you're up against and what's in the App Store by way of this kind of learning. Maybe it's not every day, and that's maybe a methodology difference and so forth, but what's out there and some of the challenges of any app, any test prep app are exactly the same as what you're saying, which is acquiring through parents for high school students, and who has been able to do that successfully, and what are the strategies that have helped them accomplish that? So these are the questions that are coming to my mind as I look at it, because we're in 2020. The iPhone was released when? 2007. It's been 13 years of smartphone economy in, hyper-growth mode. So EdTech has made huge leaps in the last 13 years, and it's very hard for me to sit here and accept your point that it's a huge white space.
I think there's two different ways you can define white space. The first way we can define white space is it's a business white space, and that nobody's going after it, and it's kind of the blue ocean thing. I think though in the mind of the consumer there's a white space, because tutoring is prohibitively expensive, and we know that there's a whole sector of the population that can't afford the traditional test prep because it's also expensive, and they don't want to waste their time on some low quality app. And so there's a white space for that market, to have something that's high quality, adaptive, but also at a price point that they can afford. So
But
one
I
might
would
not.
like to push back on that and understand whether you can defend that positioning that you are a high quality app and everything else is low quality. Can you defend that positioning? Can you communicate that to the market? Can you cut through the noise and make that point? Because, I mean, you know, one of the apps that I used a lot, when I first started learning, and this is just a proxy, I'm not even talking about the same market, but it is online learning, it is app-based learning. When I first started learning Spanish and when I first started learning French, I used to have tutors, and the tutors cost a lot of money, as you pointed out, absolutely. And then I started using Duolingo and Michelle Thomas and all these apps, and they're great, actually. These are very high-quality apps, and they're largely free or very, very inexpensive. So I found that incredibly effective, and so in language learning that exists, you're telling me that in test prep that doesn't exist. It doesn't ring true. Test prep is a incredibly large market, and there are lots of people who've been at it. So I think there's a problem with your fundamental assumption, and if I were on the receiving end of this pitch, I would want to see a much thorough analysis and positioning, competitive positioning of your business.
Yeah, that's really good. I think what we're working through right now. So we're currently in the process of interviewing parents to really understand how we can mirror their language and their pain points and kind of get through to align with them through. So that's kind of one kind of thing that we're doing right now. The other, because you hit it on the head, like how do we differentiate ourselves is really kind of the key thing. Our other hypotheses are that we can differentiate in three ways. The first is the adaptivity, which gets you better results in less time. And most companies are not adaptive. The second hypothesis is that we're creating a much more engaging product through design. That's my expertise, is product design. So people who've used us have called us the Duolingo for their high school classes, which I'm very proud that they've said this. So kind of it feels great. It's something that you want to use. I think the third differentiator, which we haven't talked about in this pitch as much, is we're not just academics. We're the only tool on the market that also helps students prepare for life after high school. So we have what we call extra credit questions, which deal with things like organizational skills, mental health, applying for scholarships, some of the things that you don't always, some of the soft skills and things you don't always get through the academic training. So that's kind of the third, I think, value proposition.
I don't buy into the third point. I think you either have a user on your core value proposition or you don't. So either the adaptability is interesting, the personalization is interesting. If you can deliver on that in a differentiated, meaningful way, that is interesting. It remains to be proved. Obviously, you're saying that you do that. You don't yet have proof that you do that, and so forth. So that's something you should try to, put metrics around and prove, show that you are doing that as soon as possible. The third point is kind of fluff around. It's nice to have. It's not core.
I'd like to check on that, because that's the thing that all parents are really gravitating towards. Getting your kid through high school and out into college is incredibly stressful, and there's a lot of unknown, particularly for somebody who might not have gone to college themselves, and they're looking for how they can prepare their kids. We keep hearing this over and over again. How can I best prepare my kid for life and not just for school?
If that's what people are gravitating towards, then that's a different business, I think.
I think it's both, because they're looking for they're looking for the magic pill that does both. So to me, that is kind of an opportunity.
They may be looking for both, but you may not want to do both, is my point. I think you need to pick which one you want to do, because these are two totally different. I think what the process that you described in $60,000 of investment, you can roll out a bunch of different subjects of personalized test prep, personalized calculus, etc., AP, and blah, blah, blah. I can buy that. But that process will not apply to mental health. So nothing that you've said from an intellectual property point of view or product design point of view applies to mental health. That's my pushback. you think about it. Okay, Ashish, do you want to add anything else before we?
Yeah, I'll just add one thing. I mean, this discussion around you're doing test prep right now, but from a branding perspective and a user-based perspective, obviously, if you're successful, you're going to get a lot of students. You're going to collectively have a lot of data on those students.
Yeah.
And then if you really want to take the data and do some psychometric measurements around their attitudes, aptitudes, and do college career, I can certainly see how the brand could grow into that. But I think, from the perspective of as a startup, 1 million raise, a very focused go-to-market is actually really needed. So as an investor, you certainly would like to have an MVP. This is really what we do, and here are my ground truth in terms of KPI before using my course and KPIs after using the course, and I'm going to just go out and get this market.
Right.
Once you have done that, it unlocks the whole.
Yeah, you need to get one product, one of these subjects out, take your 343 users and show, clearly what is the before and the after, and what have you done, what have you delivered.
Exactly what we're doing. So we're running this efficacy study right now for the March-April SAT. So, kind of students that are in right now. We have also one thing we didn't mention, we have a readiness score, a proprietary readiness score in there. So as a student studies, once they complete their first mission, they unlock their readiness score, and that tells them how ready they are to get the score that they want on the exam. And then, as they work, that score improves. And so we have that kind of as a measurement of then once they take the exam, how well they're going to improve.
Very good. I mean, it's definitely a very worthwhile project to work on, and you have relevant experience. So I wish you all the best. There's, I always think about startups like sculpture, right? You take a slab of marble and then you have to carve your David out of it. So go for it.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. Great to talk with both of you. Thanks for the feedback and advice.
You're welcome. All right, folks. Just a little bit about 1 million by 1 million before we go to Q&A. Our ask from you is, if you like what we're doing here, as you can see, it's a substantial discussion about business strategy. That's what we do here. Refer 1 million by 1 million to your friends and colleagues who are interested in accessing a high-quality learning methodology. The word serious is in bold. It takes many years to build a serious company, a real company. So we're not interested in working with entrepreneurs looking for silver bullets, because we don't have any silver bullets. It's a lot of work, a lot of experimentation, a lot of trial and error, a lot of strategic thinking, a lot of research, etc. And that's really the kind of entrepreneur who succeeds in our book. Luck is not a repeatable event. So resources-wise, you'll find everything at 1Mby1M.com. We have a terrific blog. You'll learn a lot from just reading the blog, and it's free. The Entrepreneur Journeys book series, the case study-based book series. There are 12 to 16 case studies per book. There are 12 books, and you can double-click down on a particular topic, whether it's bootstrapping with a paycheck or, positioning and so on and so forth. These roundtables happen every week. You're welcome to come back as much as you want to. Our full acceleration program is 1M1M Premium. We offer you extensive methodology guidance. We have a digital curriculum that covers pretty much everything that an early stage entrepreneur's journey entails, and we launched it in 2010 and have added to it every month. So it's a very comprehensive curriculum and battle tested at this point. We help you with business development. We have a terrific Rolodex, so we make introductions to whoever you want to connect with in our network. The strategy consulting happens in private sessions similar to what you experienced today, but we have private members-only sessions to do the strategy consulting, coaching, mentoring, whatever you call it. We do help you with financing. However, just by joining the program, you do not get access to our investor network. We have a terrific investor network, but you have to be quote-unquote fundable, and we have to work through the investor-entrepreneur fit criteria, and so on. So as you saw me discussing with Ashish, what is his investment thesis? What is the fund's investment thesis? We do that with all our investors community, and we try to send you to people who would fit where you are stage-wise, sector-wise, style-wise, etc. So that is our premium membership, $1,000 annual membership fee. There is no graduation. There's no concept of graduation. You can continue for as long as you want, as many years as you want. With people stay in for several years often. Go to the 1M1M self-assessment on the website. It's a free tool. It's a set of questions that investors would inevitably ask you. And we suggest that you ask yourself these questions and try to answer them. This is your strategic planning questionnaire framework. And if you get stuck, early stage entrepreneur's journey is very steep. So there are lots of things that you may not know. You can access the curriculum-only option of 1 million by 1 million. That's just $99 a month, 1M1M basic, and start learning methodology where you're getting stuck. That will also help you make progress. So go into the website, go dig around what to expect from premium, basic, FAQs, video FAQs, understand how the curriculum is structured. It's a case study-based curriculum. We have lots of video interviews, text interviews, video lectures, etc. that synthesizes the curriculum. It's described in detail. We have over 1,000 case studies. The entrepreneurs who have been part of the case study program have been deeply involved in this process. And we have over 100 unicorn entrepreneurs, over 400 venture-funded companies, and other 400 plus bootstrap companies. So it's a very, very intense, learning from other people. It's basically my vision when I started 1 million by 1 million is to synthesize the tribal knowledge that is floating around in Silicon Valley and elsewhere in the experiences and journeys of successful entrepreneurs and bring that together on one platform so you can learn from them. Our methodology is lean, capital-efficient bootstrap startups. We believe in bootstrap first, raise money later, which is the way the industry operates more or less these days. So that is all. We have free roundtables coming up pretty much every Thursday right now until mid-May. And then we have online rendezvous coming up every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, pretty much every week as well. Maureen, there's a typo on the slide. And then we have in-person rendezvous as well. That happens in the middle of Silicon Valley at Cafe Borone in Menlo Park, usually at 5 p.m. Pacific time, every other week. So the next one is on March 4th. So hope to see you there if you're visiting Silicon Valley or if you're local to Silicon Valley. Both kinds of entrepreneurs show up at these meetings. Okay, any questions? You're welcome to dial in. You can also type in your questions in the public chat. Either way is fine. Let me introduce you to Irina Patterson. If you have questions about the program, 1 million by 1 million, Irina will be happy to answer your questions. Anybody? Questions, comments? Last call. Ashish, thank you very much for sharing your insight and staying through Christine's presentation. And we'll look forward to interacting afterwards.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Take care. All right, folks, we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye now.